Hello everyone, welcome to the TrueNosh kitchen. I am Renee. I just want to say hi and thanks for joining us today on your Friday nights before the long weekend. We're going to teach you how to make a vegan soup dumpling. I'll start in about 1 minute. I just want everybody who's signed on for the class to have time to join us on the live video. I see a few minutes that are lagging from the live chat, so we'll just wait here for a few people. There should be a few lovely, awesome participants tonight that joined us a few times before on our live cooking classes. Thanks for coming back and thanks for donating. And if you're watching this now, you're welcome to donate to us at TrueNosh@gmail.com. And I would really appreciate it if you give us some feedback too. Feel free to write in the comments if you have any questions. And we're going to start cooking in about 15 seconds. I just want to wait till everyone who's signed up for the class to sign on. There should be one more person. And feel free to go into your kitchen and you can cook with me. So what I have ready in my kitchen is 2 pots with some water. And you can turn on those pots and start boiling some water. Each pot I have about 1 cup of liquid in it. So I'm going to show you what I have here. So 1 pot, I have a liquid, it's water, and I'm going to turn it on so it starts boiling. And then in the back here I also have another pot of water, and it's about 1 cup full, and I'm also going to turn it onto a simmer, and then when I need it, I'm going to turn it up higher. Okay, so this small one I have in front of me is what I'm going to use for the vegan soup, for the soup dumplings. And if you stay tuned, in a few weeks ago, I taught you how to make the real version with the meat. And today we're going to do a vegan version, and even the soup we're going to be making vegan. And we're going to make a jelly from the soup. So this is just water, but what I'm going to add to the water is a little bit of a soup base, okay? And if those of you who know me, I make my own sauces. So this is my hoisin sauce. I'm just going to pour in about 1 tablespoon worth of my black garlic vegan hoisin sauce, and I'm going to whisk it around in that pot. And that's basically our stock for the vegan soup, for the vegan soup dumplings, okay? And those of you who just joined us, I see a few people that are watching. Feel free to write in the comments, tell me your name, where you're from, and let me know if you have any questions. So we have a pot of water with about a cup of water inside, and I put 1 tablespoon of my hoisin sauce in here. And then you want to go to the store and buy some agar-agar powder. So agar-agar powder is made from seaweed, and it gelatinizes in the cold and it melts in hot temperatures. So what I'm going to add in is about 2 teaspoons. So I have a tablespoon here, so about 2/3 of a tablespoon. And I'm going to add that into my hoisin base that I have is a vegan hoisin sauce, some water, and then some agar-agar powder. And then I'm going to put that on the burner to boil, so then the agar-agar melts and incorporates into the water. Okay? So after it becomes melted in the liquid, you can find a mold. You can do like a cake pan or a plate that's a little bit more warped that can hold some liquid. And you want to put that on a really thin layer, and then you want to put it in the freezer. So what happens in the freezer, it actually helps you increase the time for it to congeal and become a solid, so you don't have to wait so long for it to solidify, and therefore you can use it as the soup for on top of the soup dumplings. So remember, every time you want to make soup dumplings, even vegan or meat, you want to start by making the soup first and putting it in either the fridge overnight, or if you're in a hurry, the freezer. So don't forget it in the freezer though, because it can get really hard and you can't take bits out of it easily. Okay, so my soup has boiled, and I'm going to pour it in a pan just like this. You don't have to put it in a pan, you can put it in a bowl. It depends on how much time we have, but today we don't have that much time, and because of that, I'm going to put a really thin layer of soup in a pan like this. This is about half a centimeter to the top. And then I'm going to stick this in the freezer right now. So I'm going to wait for it to solidify as much as possible. If it doesn't solidify by the time we need it, we can still use it, and we know it's going to get thicker, so therefore it's easy to work with, okay? So if you guys can see, the liquid is very thin in the pan, and I'm going to stick it in the freezer. All right, so make sure you secure a space in the freezer and check on it every 15 minutes so it doesn't get too hard. And if it gets too hard, then put it in the fridge right away. So after the soup is in the freezer, we can start making the filling. So what we have as a vegan filling, let me turn this off, is some chickpeas. So I have some canned chickpeas here, which we're going to mush, and then a really firm, extra firm tofu. You want to buy the extra firm one. If it's too medium firm or too soft, it's going to become really loose and very runny. So you don't want something that is under medium firm tofu. So it's pretty easy to find a firm tofu, so you can get this quite easily. And what you want to do is put it all in a big mixing bowl. So I have a can of chickpeas that I'm going to put in a mixing bowl. So drain out the water. We don't want any water. You can use that for aqua baba and make like meringue and put it on top of a pie. And then I'm going to put the block of firm tofu in with the chickpeas, and we're going to have a lot of fun later mushing it all up. And then what we're going to do also, I have a block of ginger here with a hand grater. You can chop it up, mince it if you want, if you don't have one of these microplanes or a grater. And you want to grate in about 1 tablespoon worth of ginger. You can just eyeball that, right? So I keep the skin of my ginger, so make sure you just wash the skin really well. And I believe that a lot of the antioxidants and the fiber is kept in the skin, so I don't think you really need to actually take the skin off. So make sure you watch what you're doing, or else these things are really, really sharp and you don't want to hurt yourself. So I'm going to grate in about 1 tablespoon worth of ginger. Okay, make sure you pound all that ginger in the back in here. And then what I have is some nutritional yeast. It's super easy to find nutritional yeast. is all over the place, I'm going to put about 1 heaping tablespoon of nutritional yeast in here. If you don't have nutritional yeast, you don't have to. You can just buy, you can just put in salt. And today we're actually going to not put any salt and also put a tablespoon of my vegan hoisin sauce in here. My hoisin sauce is black garlic, sweet potatoes, and apples. And I find that you don't really even need salt if you have nutritional yeast. And one of my sauces, super flavorful. And then one last thing, we have actually 2 last things. One is a white pepper. You can find white peppercorn in the Asian aisle or the spice section of your grocery store. And what we have here, I'm going to review, we have a can of chickpeas that has been drained. We have 1 block of firm tofu. We have 1 tablespoon of my hoisin sauce and 1 tablespoon of my nutritional yeast. If you don't have either, you can just put a teaspoon of salt in it to make up for the flavors. And then I'm going to grate in a little bit of white pepper. If you like more peppery, just add more. But I'm just going to add about 1/8 of a teaspoon of white pepper. White pepper is a little bit more gingery than black pepper, and it's more umami compared to a black pepper. I can smell it. It's very fragrant, and it's wonderful to go with a lot of Chinese food. So those who are new, who joined us, I'm Renee. I'm a registered dietitian here in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Some people have seen my live even from like Australia and Hawaii. So it's pretty exciting time that we can, pan across different oceans for people to cook together with me. So I'm very excited. So this is the vegan filling for our vegan soup dumplings: chickpeas, firm tofu, nutritional yeast, and white pepper and my hoisin sauce. And then the last thing we're going to add is a little bit of Chinese Shaoxing cooking wine. And that would be about 1 capful or 1 tablespoon worth of the Chinese Shaoxing cooking wine. Okay, and that is it. And what you want to do is to get your hands dirty, and you want to be able to mush your filling with your hands. Okay. And that's the fun of cooking, is to get your hands dirty and feel the food that you're cooking. And you can see that I'm mushing the tofu with the chickpeas, so it becomes a nice homogeneous filling for your soup dumplings. I hope everyone here has seen or tasted soup dumplings. They're amazing places in Vancouver. I lived in Hong Kong as well as California. They also have really amazing different restaurants serving soup dumplings. And in Chinese, soup dumplings is xiaolongbao or xiaolongbao in Cantonese. Xiaolongbao is Mandarin. And what it means is a little basket bun. And last year, the film Bao won an Oscar, and super proud of being a Canadian that I loved that little short film. It's super cute. Super cute and real at the same time. So what you want to do with the chickpeas is to mush them with your fingers if you want to have a more mushy filling. But if you want to know that there's chickpeas in your filling, then go ahead and keep them whole. It's really about you and what you like in the filling, but I'm going to mush a little bit more of the chickpeas with my fingers to make it a more of a homogeneous filling for my soup dumplings, okay? And then in the meantime, when you're making your filling, you can put another cup or turn up the back burner that has the water in it, and we need to boil some water for the wrapper. And the wrapper gets really, really stretchy and chewy because of the hot water. So you always need hot water to mix it with some bread flour. And we're using some bread flour for the wrapper today. If you don't have bread flour, you can go ahead and use all-purpose flour. It's all fine. And that is usually made last because we don't want the wrapper to dry up as we fill the filling, and we also want to be able to wrap right away, okay? All right, so those of you who want to see what my filling looks like, my tofu has all become a mush, and essentially it acts like meat. And this is a high protein filling, which is great. And we don't need any extra protein for our filling. And the more you mish the tofu, the better the filling is. So you should have a little bit of patience mushing the tofu and the chickpeas together. Okay. Okay, so this is my filling, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a rest, and then I'll come back to it after we make the wrapper. So I'm going to wash my hands really quickly. Okay, so I'm just going to show you guys what the filling looks like up close. It kind of looks like this. And I'm going to put the nutritional yeast away. And we're going to start making the wrapper of the soup dumplings. And this is just a regular soup dumpling wrapper. We're teaching the gluten-free version in our next online class, so stay tuned for that, the gluten-free meat version. I have a carrot here, which is a fun thing to do if you have the time. You should go ahead and decorate your steam basket. So this is a basket that I can use to steam my soup dumplings, and I have a steamer on here. Or you can put a plate on top of the rack, okay, and it should be fine as well. If you don't have a steamer, a plate just works as fine, and you need one of these racks. If you don't have one, you can invert a big bowl, like a big soup bowl, invert it into your soup dumpling steamer, and then make sure that you have about an inch full of water for steaming your dumplings. So I'm going to add some water. And this is what it looks like. And then you're going to rest either the plate or the soup dumpling basket on top when you're ready to steam. So I like to keep my water on a simmer, just so if I, fill up a steam basket, I can easily cook them really easily. So what I'm going to do with the carrots is actually cutting the carrots into small little pieces as the soup dumpling base. So when you take pictures, it will look really vibrant and not just pieces of dough, right? All right, if you don't have carrots, go ahead and lay down some parchment paper on top of the plate. But it always looks nicer if you have some sort of vegetable underneath your dumpling. You can put cabbage. You can also put daikon. You can put pieces of kale underneath. It's really up to you what you put underneath your soup dumplings to make it non-stick. and have some fun with the colors that you are playing with. Okay, so this is what my plate looks like to make sure that my soup dumplings don't stick. Okay, so we can put the agar away. You can buy agar at a Asian cooking store or grocery store. It's usually in the baking section of the grocery store, like TNT or Price Smart. Okay, so the filling's ready. I'm going to set this aside because I don't want to knock it over when we make the wrapper. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the wrapper. We have some boiling water in the back here. We don't need much, okay? We need about only 3/4 of a cup to 1 cup of bread flour. We have bread flour here, but if you don't have bread flour at home, all-purpose flour just works just as well. But you'll notice that you need to knead it a bit more, and which is fine. You just work on your biceps and triceps, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is to add 1 cup, so my cup doesn't fit here. So it's 1 cup of flour. And you want to make it a nice and flat cup of flour. And then put it in a nice mixing bowl here. And then with that mixing bowl, you want to make sure that you have really, really, really hot boiling water, okay? And you are going to make sure that the water is really, really hot, and then you're going to find your half cup, okay? So 1 cup of flour, you just need half a cup of boiling water, okay? And even less when it's more humid, okay? And then now you want to get a spatula. So it's really hot water that we poured in here. So once you poured in the hot water, it gets really, really hot. And it looks like it's a gelled form of the flour. But then you want to start mixing it as quickly as possible. Hi, Amy. Thank you for loving my Asian sauces. I'm glad you're watching. Okay, so it's going to look like there is not enough water, but give it a little bit of faith. Okay, and stir it around with your spatula for about 2 to 3 minutes because you want the heat to dissipate before you use your fingers to knead this soup dumpling dough, okay? Okay, so it's going to look quite dry, okay? It's going to look quite dry, but what you're going to do now is making sure that the heat is dissipated and you're not going to burn your fingers. You're going to squeeze the dough together, okay, and make a dough ball. It might be still a little bit hot for some people who are watching. So if it's too hot, give it a little bit more of a break or stir it a little bit more until it's warm to touch and you can start kneading. So after you squeeze all the flour together, it becomes a nice dough ball and it doesn't look as dry anymore. And you want to keep kneading. You want to basically knead it until all your fingers are clean and your bowl is clean. And you want to develop that gluten. So for soup dumplings, the thinner the skin is, the better, and the chewier the skin is better, right? So the more you knead it, that chewiness and the protein is going to form, and it's going to be easier to roll thin, and you can make it as chewy as possible. So it still feels a little bit dry, but as you need. So what I'm doing inside the bowl is I'm folding the dough in half and then compressing it. I'm not smearing the dough on the bottom of the pan or the mixing bowl. I'm just compressing the dough with my body weight. Until the dough is smooth and all the dry flour is incorporated into the dough, then I know the dough is almost ready. And it should feel stickier as you do this, okay? Okay, so if it does feel getting like stickier, make sure you pull the dough off and keep kneading. The more you knead, the more protein is forming, and you don't want to give up. So you want to do this for at least 5 to 8 minutes just to get all the protein incorporated into the dough. And you want the dough to be as smooth and round and dense as possible before you start rolling out your dumpling wrappers. And a lot of people ask me, is it okay to buy store-bought wrappers? Well, it is, but you will not find that you can stretch it as easily as homemade wrappers, okay? And if you can imagine, 1 cup of flour can make at least 30 soup dumplings, which is a lot. And it's not expensive when you buy a wrapper. It's usually 50 wrappers or 100 wrappers, but then you can't make soup dumplings. You can only make pot stickers with the store-bought ones, because these, you'll notice later when we do a close-up of how you wrap a soup dumpling, you'll notice that it needs to stretch. Okay, so you'll all notice as I knead, my bowl gets cleaner and cleaner, and also my fingers get cleaner and cleaner, and that's exactly what you want to happen. And that's a good sign. If you get tired on this hand, now you can switch hands. Make sure you're working out both sides of your body. Get your body into your dough. Okay, so after it gets to a nice dense ball like this, you are not done yet. It looks like and feels like it's done, but now you want to kind of massage it in your hands to make sure all the powder bits have been incorporated into the dough. And at this point, your mixing bowl is like super clean already, and we don't really need it. So I'm going to put it away with all the things that we don't need. Okay. And what you want to do is have a clean working surface. Okay. And then after 1 or 2 minutes of playing around with your dough, and it feels like Play-Doh, it should be very, very elastic and easy to maneuver, and it feels moist, but also it doesn't leave any extra dough on your fingers. And it feels dense, and you know your dough is ready, and it's also smooth all around. Okay, so if you are doing all-purpose flour, you might find that this procedure takes a little bit longer because you're waiting for the protein to develop. And the more you knead it, the denser it gets and the smoother it gets. And you'll end up with something like this. Okay, All right, so now I'm going to cut this guy into, I guess, thirds, okay? So it's easier for me to work with. And then I'm going to take 1/3, I'm going to roll it into a long sausage-like cylinder. Okay? Something like a hot dog would be exactly what you're looking for. And then what you want to do is with your knife, cut little pebbles off of it. And these are a bit big actually, but you know, for your beginner ones, you do want to have a little bit of a bigger blob or bigger pebble. Okay? And then what I'm doing is just rolling each pebble into a ball or a sphere. It doesn't have to be a perfect ball or perfect sphere. It's just easier for you to maneuver. So these are a little bit big. I'm just going to consolidate a few and to make an extra ball out of each. Okay, so we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 balls, and we have 3 balls, so it should be about 30 soup dumplings in your recipe that I'm giving you. And those of you who signed up and have donated, you have already received an email with the dumpling recipes, so I hope you guys are following along, and I'm going to make some awesome vegan soup dumplings. Okay, so we're going to do 10 first, and then the other dough we're just going to leave aside. And what you want to do is take out your rolling pin. So if you have one of these, which is great, if you don't have a rolling pin, go ahead and use a wine bottle or a soy sauce bottle. I'm not going to judge you. I'm just going to get you some nice soup dumpling wrappers. So whatever baton you have, go ahead and grab that. It just needs to be round and rollable. And what you do want to do though is make sure you have a little bit of flour on your working surface. That's a little bit much, but we're going to just put it aside. And what you're going to do is to roll out the dumpling. So what you want to do is slowly and gently roll it out. You don't want to roll it all the way, or else you're going to have uneven sides. And then turn it halfway and then roll it again, turn it again. So each time you roll, it's turned, so you have an even round soup dumpling wrapper. Once again, don't be afraid to use some flour, or else it'll stick to your rolling pin. And the size of the wrapper, well, it really depends on how thin you want it. So your first few, it might feel like it's not thin enough, but the more you get the hang of it, the easier it is to roll it out thin. Okay, so I'm aiming for something that is the size of my palm and a little bit over, so it drapes over my palm. Okay, and that's a good size. And what you want to do is hold it through the light and see if you can see your fingers behind it and see if it's see-through. And that's a good indication that your dumpling wrapper is thin enough. So now we have one. And now I'm going to check to see if my soup that we made in the beginning of class has solidified. So if it has, we can start wrapping our soup dumplings, okay? and it has, so it's solidified, which is awesome. And we're going to see if we can grab some soup. Okay, perfect. It's quite icy, so we kind of put it in a little bit too long, but can definitely still be used. So this is what it looks like out of the freezer. And now I want to bring you guys closer to me. I'm going to rest you guys here, and then you're going to be right next to my wrapping station. Okay, so this is my wrapping station. I hope you guys can see everything that I have here. I have my soup, and I have a little bit of my filling. Filling over here. So I have spoons in both my filling and my soup. And here you go is the first soup dumpling. You want to have a little bit of flour on your working surface because the first soup dumpling we're going to do is entirely on the cutting board. All right, so what you want to do is to make sure that there's not too much filling, okay? This is just enough, about a teaspoon worth of filling. And you want to make sure that you have about an inch space all around the wrapper off the filling because we need to also wrap it over top. So another way to measure is to make sure that all sides, the wrapper actually snuggles up to the filling and it can actually cover the filling, okay? And that's when you know that there's not too much filling, okay? This is kind of a test that I always do. And then now you want to get some of your solidified soup, okay? And then you want to put it on top of your filling, and this is the soup that's going to melt in your cooking process, right? So at this point you don't want to add too much soup. Like, this is a little bit overzealous of me, but all right, so half a teaspoon of soup should rest on top of your soup dumpling like that. And then you pull your wrapper to the top of the filling, and then you want to start bunching up the wrapper into the middle. So what I'm having is I'm bringing my left hand and I'm keeping that steady. I'm not moving my left hand. If you're right-handed, do the same for your right hand. And then slide 1 centimeter next to that hand, and then fold the dumpling into the middle and press. Again, folding it into the middle and press. So you're just bunching the wrappers into the middle, and as you wrap, you turn the dumpling. So that's why it's important to have a little bit of flour on the bottom of the soup dumpling to make sure it turns. So you want to do this about 15 to 20 times. You'll have like a good amount of little ripples and pleats around your soup dumpling. And then you'll notice that there is a little bit of extra dough on top. And at this point, you want to make sure you gather it all up in a point. And then you can flick it off with your fingertips and squeeze it. And here you go. This is your first soup dumplings. Isn't that easy? So now we prepped our basket quite early in time, and we can put it onto the carrots one by one. So we'll start in the middle. That's our first soup dumpling, and then we keep going on. So we can keep rolling out the dough. and keep wrapping. So I'm going to wrap a few with you guys, and then we're going to start steaming. So what you want to do as you wrap is turn the steamer water onto boiling, and then after maybe 4 or 5, we're going to steam them up, and you can see how it cooks. So the steaming process for meat is about 10 to 11 minutes, depends on how big the soup dumpling is. And for the vegan one is actually a little bit less time because there's no meat to cook. So it should be about 8 minutes of being it in the boiling steamer. Okay, and you want to put the steamer basket on when the water is boiling, okay? Because you want to make sure that it's hot, and you want to start counting the minutes, or else the soup inside the dumpling will start boiling and will burst your dumpling open, and all your efforts in making the soup that will melt in the dumpling will be gone. Okay, so this is my second wrapper. Again, it kind of drapes over the palm of your hand. I'm just going to make that a little bit nicer. Okay, and then this one, I'm going to use my hand and not the table so you can see a little bit closer. Okay, so about the same amount of filling. Make sure it's all in the middle. Okay, and now we're going to add a little bit of soup to the top. And the soup is what's going to melt. And then now you have your constant 2 fingers pinching. And then you want to start gathering the wrapper into the middle and squeezing as you gather. Oops. And this is quite fun to do once you get the hang of it. Okay, and once again, the top part has a lot of dough. Make sure you squeeze all your pleats together in one small area, and then you can pluck off the extra dough. And make it a nice little dumpling. Here's your second one. Okay, and then we can do 2 more, and then we're going to steam them up for you. Does anybody have any questions? I know, Amy, they're cute, right? I'm gonna do a few more. So you guys can have a closer look. And if you guys are just joining us, you can always rewind the video to see all the steps. Again, I'm leaving this video online for 48 hours, and then afterwards you can visit our Skillshare platform. So if you have Skillshare, we have one class on there that's free already, and that's actually our meat soup dumpling class. And then this vegan one will also be on there sometime soon, so you can do a vegan version. Okay, another one. So there is the filling. And then you want to get some soup, place it on top, and then get one side of the wrapper and then a centimeter next to it. Start folding it into the top and squeezing each fold. I can hear my steamer basket boiling, so we can almost cook these guys. All right, so our third one also done. Make sure that you click off the top. Again, squeeze it together. And then I'm going to do one more, or one or two more, because if you guys are going to see some dumpling action, it would look a little bit nicer with 5 dumplings in the steamer basket. All right. Okay. Now filling again. The filling we made is quite a lot, so you can save that for some like fried rice or some sauce in your future cooking escapades, I guess you would call it. Okay, and our fourth one. Squeeze it tight, pluck off the top, squeeze it again to make sure all the pleats are intact. Right here. And I'm going to do one more, and we're going to put it in the steamer for about 8 minutes, and I'm going to review all the ingredients with you. As you can see, there's not enough flour. It's going to stick to your baton or your rolling pin. I'm going to make sure that you have a nice flour surface for you to roll on. Great. And this is our last one. We're going to demonstrate. And I hope you guys make this often, because dumplings are a healthy, happy food. It usually makes me excited every time I get dumplings. Okay, so one last one. I'm going to prick the top off. And we're going to get steaming. Cool. So this is going to go on the steamer. I'm going to bring you guys back over to the top part so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. The water in back is steaming. Be careful, hot. You want to put that over here. Okay, and then you can just put the box back on. And then with your phone or with a timer, it's about 8 minutes. All right. We have my awesome volunteer Patricia here filming for me too. Say hi. And then after we steam it for 8 minutes, then you can use any dipping sauce. Usually it's the Chinese chin kang black vinegar with a little bit of ginger is great. But if you go to my website, TrueNosh.com, you can find awesome vegan Asian sauces that are all made without any sugar, all low in sodium, as well as all vegan and gluten-free. So we have a hoisin sauce that we use. We have an oyster style sauce with kelp and mushrooms. We also have a black bean sauce. And everything is basically made for me to feed my friends and family because they all can't, tolerate sugar really well. My partner has celiac disease. My mom has heart disease. So all the sugar-free, the gluten-free, and the low sodium is basically made so I can feed my friends and family without any worry. Okay? All right, so let's go over some of the ingredients before we finish class today and we check out our soup dumplings after it's been cooked. So for the first part of the shot, we did a soup for the soup dumplings. So we boiled a cup of water with a tablespoon of agar-agar, or like a three-quarters tablespoon, or 2 tablespoons of agar-agar. So just read the label on the box and it'll tell you exactly how much water to agar-agar ratio. If you wanted a thicker soup, then you'll add a little bit more agar. If you want a thinner soup, then just a little bit less. And then we added some hoisin sauce. If you don't have hoisin sauce, just use some vegetable stock or mushroom stock for the soup base, and that's fine. And then for the filling, we have hard tofu. We also have a can of chickpeas. We added some nutritional yeast, some of my hoisin sauce, and some grated ginger, white pepper, and Chinese Shaoxing cooking wine into the marinade of the filling. And we mush the filling with our hands. And then back to the dough. So we have still a little bit more to work on for the dough, but it's basically 1 cup of flour to a half cup of really boiling water. You don't want just boiled water. You want to just basically take it off the burner and use it right away type of hot water. And then you mix it for about 5 minutes just to let the mixture cool down. And then after it feels nice to touch, then you want to knead it for at least 10 to 15 minutes to get that nice, soft, and dense texture. And I like to split the dough into 3s to make it easier for me to roll out and cut into pebble sizes. So usually 10 pebbles per a block of wrapper, and so you should get at least 30 wrappers from that 1 cup of bread flour. Okay, and then we wrapped, and then now it's in the steamer for 8 minutes. And then we can eat. All right, so are there any questions that I need to know? Anybody have any concerns about the recipe? You can always email me info@truenosh.com to basically, give me some comments or ask some questions if you can't think of it now. This video will be online for about 48 hours, and then try to look on our Skillshare platform to find other cooking videos. We have this regular soup dumpling class on. We're about to put on a Thai curry class, and there are many, many more scheduled classes that you can purchase and view online as well. All right, so let me just, there's 2 more minutes left. Maybe I can roll out one last soup dumpling, and I do want you guys to see the end result of the soup dumpling and make sure that it works, right? Okay, all right, so I'll do one last one before the timer ends. Okay, oops. Turn that to high. And then the dough, you can actually freeze and thaw out and use again. So that's something great about this dough. You can also put it through a spaghetti roller and also make noodles out of it. Okay, so the thinness is about the size of your palm again. Look through to see if you can see your fingers through a nice light. And then the filling goes in the middle. And some soup. And then we're going to fold the wrapper and squeeze as we bring the wrapper into the middle to form these awesome pleats. Okay? And if you want to watch this up close and personal, rewind the video. We have a very awesome close-up. And we have some extra dough on top, right? So what you want to do is squeeze it all the way into the middle and pluck it off. And then you want to squeeze it shut. And there you go, soup dumpling. Awesome. So we're going to cook this later after this batch ends. Should have beat for me already. Okay, and now, open, and ta-da, our soup dumplings are done. I'm going to bring you guys closer again to the pot, and you can see 8 minutes should be a good time, so then the soup doesn't explode, and you see the wrappers have gone a little bit more translucent. That means it's done. I'm going to turn off the heat and prepare to eat. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's class, and if you guys have any questions, check out my website, TrueNosh.com, and we are going to open a store in October. So exciting. And the storefront is going to be on 7th and Granville, and the whole store will be selling everything that has no added sugar, all gluten-free, and vegetarian. So I'm very excited to have that coming up soon. So stay tuned to see the opening date, and I hope you guys can visit me at the store sometime. All right, so thanks for watching, and hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Good night, and have a wonderful long weekend. All right, so we have Gigi here and also Vanessa here. So they're awesome helpers and nutrition students of mine. And I am so blessed to have them here helping me.